Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling full-time trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials across the world. I've met many people during my career and have spent many hours on stage and off with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on the weekends with friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today. My next guest is a fine trombonist, but that's not the only thing he plays. And you'll find out as we go on with this conversation about some of the interesting things about my next guest, Mr. Ed Weiss. Hello, Ed.
Hi, Dan.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Ed, yeah, you got that right.
A guy with a fellow German name. I didn't realize how German you were until I started researching you. And so I think we should both go back to the Fatherland. No. Of course, you know, my name is more German than I appear, obviously. But what can I say? So there you are in Van Nuys. How's the weather in Van Nuys today?
It's nice. It's nice. The heat has broken. I think the high is going to be in the 80s today, and it's a beautiful day.
Okay. Well, according to my research, my crack staff, I'm kidding, have got together, and I realize now that you were born in Pennsylvania. Yes?
Wait, that's not correct. I was actually born in Denver, Colorado.
I thought you were from St. Petersburg.
I grew up in Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, well then you need to correct your bio online. Because I don't think it says that you're, no, so that explains a couple of things, of course. Because I think you listed your hometown as St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. Yeah, I mean, I was there from the time I was 3 years old until I graduated from high school. So.
Well, then you moved back to Colorado, right?
I have spent time in Colorado. But,
was that the Air Force?
No. I had an aunt who was still living in Colorado, and in my late teens, I spent a summer or two there.
Did you spend time in the Air Force? Is that wrong too?
That is wrong. I never did. My father was in the Army Air Corps.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I'm gonna have to fire my staff, which is me.
And my father's first name is also Adam, so there may have been a false positive there.
It could be. Yeah, as you know, the channel is called Trad Jazz Today. And I think if there's any of my friends that qualify for being called Trad Jazz, well, at least Trad, it's definitely you. Some of the organizations you play with are absolutely amazing. Of course, you and I met at the Leisure World gig. I think maybe
Curley's. I don't know.
I thought it was the thing we did for Louise.
Well, we did those, but I think we probably played at Curley's together before that. Probably.
Okay, maybe it was just the red hat that threw me.
That was the first time I got your attention, I guess.
There you go. Oh, have such a rakish profile. So let's talk about some of this stuff that I've dug up on you.
Sure.
You play Alp horn.
Very badly, yes. I mean,
I didn't
really
realize.
bad.
I don't know what the standard is, so you could have fooled me.
The bar is low, but I'm somewhere below the bar on that one.
Okay.
Really good.
And then what? Schlamai? What's that called?
Schalmei is another German instrument that sounds roughly like a car horn.
Well, I've seen pictures, and I know that actually they tried to popularize them in Germany at one point in time, and they didn't quite catch on.
Well, in certain drinking circles, they did. So they still play them to this day for Oktoberfest type events.
Now they're in different ranges too, like any instrument, right?
What's that now?
They're in any ranges. I saw a bass one in your picture.
That's right.
Which looks like the difference between a hydra and a sousaphone.
It's it's a wraparound, kind of about the size of a helicon, maybe something like that.
How many bells do they have?
Well, all of them in all the different sizes. You have maybe several tubes, each of which only sounds one or two pitches, so that on any one of those instruments, you can only play a one octave scale. It doesn't have a whole series of overtones like most of our instruments do.
So is that a reeded instrument like a harmonica?
It is reeded. There's a metal reed inside, and you blow. You don't buzz it. You blow through it, and then when you blow air, it makes the metal reed inside the mouthpiece there vibrate.
So it kind of sounds like a metallic accordion.
Yeah, it does. And when you have, I play at the Pomona Fairplex for Oktoberfest with a guy who spent a lot of money and bought a whole choir of these instruments, which is what you saw probably online. And all the way from yes, the I guess it's the bass. No, it's contrabass, probably the wraparound one.
Right.
All the way down to a tiny sopranino. And
Wow.
but each of them only plays about a one octave scale, and you can only play on one key. They're all pitched to the same key.
What key? I'm just curious.
I think C. I think they're in C.
Now, are they writing arrangements for them?
Yes, and that same band leader had a whole book put together of charts, arrangements, and it sounds like a carnival organ when we all start playing. It really is cool, but we don't even do it. It's kind of a novelty. We have a band for Oktoberfest there. Mostly we play our trombones and whatnot.
Is that the same band that plays the Alp horns?
Yes, same guy. He buys all these different size Alp horns. And so he makes us play them, and that one I really am not so great at. But we we do what we have to. It's fun, but
Actually,
I'm not good at Alphorn.
The Alphorn choirs are kind of a cool sound, but of course that also takes some orchestration and guidance.
Yeah, and it is more of a real instrument in that you play a whole overtone series. The Alphorn is conical, like the French horn.
Okay.
And that makes it actually, I would say, more difficult to play than most of our instruments because you tend to be high up in the partials, and it's unstable, and it's just it takes more skill to really.
Okay, so it's like playing above a high B flat on trombone where you have the entire diatonic scale, but it's all overtones and such.
Yeah, and it's very wobbly. And also with the Alphorn, the sound is actually emanating maybe 18 feet away from your head, so it's far away, and it's just kind of an odd thing. And every year I go out and do the gig, but it's going to take me a long time to get really good on that instrument.
Of course, and you play Sacbut also.
Yes, but that's more or less just like playing trombone, pretty much.
Well, kind of. The positions aren't in the same place, are they? I mean, the harmonic series is the same, but like, for example, you don't use your finger to guide where third position is.
Well, actually, I have worked for years at the Renaissance Fair, which nowadays is in Irwindale.
Both of my kids have seen you, not knowing it, but yes.
Probably.
They're big Renaissance Fair fans.
Probably, yeah. But the Sacbuts that most of us play there are not. You can get very expensive Sacbuts made in Europe, and those are not generally what we play there. We play what you could call sawed-off trombones.
Oh, so they're regular B-flat trombones or C trombones that have been shortened, and the bell's been.
The bell is shortened. It doesn't change the pitch when you cut the bell off. All it does is it takes away the resonance of a good trombone.
Well, so yeah, because one thing, you don't have the tone ring in the bead. Right, of the bell.
You what now?
The beat of the bell, that's missing.
Yeah, you lose all, but also the entire bell of a horn pretty much functions as the resonator. So if you cut that off, you're just taking away a lot of the sound quality of the horn. So, but it plays pitch-wise, it plays the same. You have to go way back up the above the bell section, I think, before you would start to pitch would start to go up.
Yeah, when I was talking to my son about the interview with you, he was talking about the fact that on the authentic Sacbuts, they have that handle for the extension into the lower positions, right?
I do know some guys that play, they'll make them out to be bass Sacbuts, and usually they're sawed off bass trombones.
So he was saying that that he thinks there's a real market for that, with especially kids who start in elementary school and can barely get past fifth position, to have some sort of reach extender.
Yeah, that is done. Most of the guys we're talking about at Renaissance Fair that do that, they do that for show. They may not even really need the extenders. I mean, so it's kind of a gimmicky thing. But whenever, as you know, whenever you get into contrabass trombones, it becomes a problem for normal humans to reach. And what they do is they wrap it. Sometimes
right, double wrap. No, I've
and,
never seen a contrabass that wasn't wrapped. Do they exist?
Well, they wouldn't be.
I know it would be ridiculous.
It would be practical, yeah, I know. But those guys, sometimes you'll see them have handles in order to reach. I know in classical literature, there's a Bartok concerto, which he wrote an impossible gliss, which would have to be from 8th position to 1st position.
Okay.
Now, non-trombonists, there are normally seven, trombone positions. So
right.
8th position is, guess what? That's you need the handle.
I would imagine.
You even try to play that, and actually, if you go too far with the handle, the horn will come off it'll come off the end of the section there. So I mean, it's these are all things you're kind of fudging on the edges there.
So kind of the bottom line of my research basically just tells me that you'll play with anybody.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is great. I mean, let's name some things. You played with the Armenian Marching Band.
Yes, that's right.
The German Ensemble.
Yeah.
The Fezziwig's Cotillion.
Yes, that's right. For the Dickens Festival, yes.
There you go. Venice Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, and that's not surprisingly sort of an avant-garde ensemble where the guy uses classical instruments, but does arrangements of rock and hip hop and just crazy stuff. So anyway, that's another thing.
Pacafella.
Pacafella is a rap singer or hip hop artist, and he wanted to have a brass section in his band, so that's what that one is.
There's the Venezuelan band. Are your buddies with?
Which one?
Venezuelan band, Los Adolescentes.
Oh well, that's actually a very famous international act that I did get to play with on a showcase at Stevens Steakhouse when they came through town. So that's kind of like a local fill-in on a traveling road act kind of thing. But yeah, that actually did happen. It's hard to believe.
It's not hard to believe, especially not with your resume. I mean, you kind of say, "Oh, okay," and you'll go. Not to mention the fact that you're playing at Curley's. That takes some real guts. But you're also playing with a couple of very good friends of mine that I don't think you knew, which is Walt and Helen Sereth, Mary Ellen Sereth.
Yes, easy for you to say.
Walt I've known for a very long time because of his trad clarinet playing, and I met his wife just through those gigs.
Yes.
But they've kind of disappeared from the scene around here, as far as the trad scene is concerned, for a while now. And Walt and I used to be terrific friends. It's kind of an interesting story. One time we were playing down at the Depot in San Juan Capistrano with Golden Eagle, I think it was. And during a break, he talked to me about how he was really frustrated that he couldn't get a big, wide open vibrato like those early classical players. And so we got to talking about reeds and mouthpieces. He said, I've tried everything. I just can't get that. Which is a thing modern players try to avoid, of course. But he's a great guy. I like Walt a lot. If you see him before I do, which you probably will, make sure that you mention me.
Well, and let me tell you where he is active regularly these days, until, of course, the recent shutdown of everything. But Marianne was bringing him to play every Thursday at Joe's Bar in Burbank, which is there used to be Dixieland bands every Tuesday and Thursday for lunchtime. It's a place called Sardo's in Burbank.
Okay.
And then several years ago, Sardo's, and this happened periodically, or the management sold out, or I don't know what. But anyway, Sardo's closed. So they were able to find a place called Joe's Bar on Magnolia, less than a mile from there, and they relocated the Tuesday and Thursday groups there. Because those groups in Burbank go back until, I would say, maybe 1990, somewhere around there. there was a whole band there. There was a trombone player named Steve Hope, and actually the fellow playing guitar and banjo there is still active there, Dick Braxton. And he goes all the way back to 1990 on that gig. He's still there, and Dick is something like 92 now. I don't know. But so there has been one person, but most of the people over the years have, passed on, or some of them have moved away. I got a phone call just the other week from, now you know what, his name, he played bass sax, and you may have to help me with the name because I didn't know him real well. Jack, I want to
Jack Wadsworth.
Yes, Jack Wadsworth. He moved to Washington State, I think a long time ago. And it's been maybe 2 years ago, I found a bunch of fake book material, sort of, and I was trying to find out where all these lead sheets had come from, and I was researching, and I was asking people, and I talked to Phil Andreen, and I said, these sheets were used by the band at Sardo's in the 1990s. Steve Hope passed away. I find people who know about this book, but they don't know where it came from. And so I was just calling people and trying to ask them who originally, published these sheets. So Phil told me, well, why don't you call Jack? Because he was playing with them at that time, and he might know. So I called Jack, and I left him a voicemail in maybe early 2018. And I never heard back. And, so time goes by, and now everything's shut down, and we're all at home and just catching up on stuff. And the phone rings a few weeks ago, and it's Jack Wadsworth. And he says, oh, I was returning your call. I said, man, I called you 2 years ago.
He's a nice guy, but yeah.
He's a very nice guy. No, we talked for a long time, and we talked about it. And when I figured out why, I had forgotten the message I left him. And then when we figured out, I said, oh, you know what? I actually found out where those sheets came from. And there was a man named Chuck Anderson years ago who was actually behind all those things. And Jim Jones kind of inherited that publishing enterprise, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So anyway, we actually figured that out. But by the time Jack called me, I could actually tell him. I don't think he would have been able to answer the question originally. But anyway, he was interested.
Are you telling me that was an under the table fake book? Is what?
Not only that, Chuck was selling it out of the trunk of his car, as I understand. But I never met him either. He's long gone. But I know Jim very well, and I did.
You're not talking about Chuck Anderson, the trombone player, are you?
No, this guy.
Okay, because I played with the Chuck Anderson, who used to be on the Harry James Orchestra.
Yeah, maybe this guy, Jim Jones calls this guy Charles often, but he's also known as Chuck. I believe he was a baritone sax player, or a reed man, more or less.
Okay.
And he lived in, I believe, in the San Diego area. And he published, what he did was he was taking old sheet music and just kind of putting it together in fake book format and selling them in binders.
Sure.
And there were like at least 10 volumes of it. And then many years ago, somebody put that on, they scanned it. This would have been maybe 20, 25 years ago. And it started circulating on the internet. And it's called the 8,000 Tunes.
Okay.
But nothing was credited. They kind of did it that way. And which is unfortunate, because if you'd been able to kind of nail down the rights and actually market it, it could have been more widely disseminated. And a lot of those old tunes are impossible to find except through that source, honestly. It's one of only a few places you can go to dig. These aren't all great pieces of music.
Oh, sure. No, they were basically to hand out a gig so people had some semblance of what the tune was. Yeah.
But it was encyclopedic what Chuck was documenting. So
it's nothing like CJ's book. His is pretty incredible, but.
Yes, CJ is another great collector of tunes that otherwise would be forgotten, just because they go so far back to.
And maybe for good reason at times. No.
Sometimes, you can vote on some of these, but I mean, it's fun and it's great music, and it was Tin Pan Alley. It was a great period of time for the American Songbook. So it's great that there are a few people at least trying to pump life into it and keep it going.
Sure. Was trombone your first instrument?
Yeah, it really is my first love, and basically it's what I always want to play. So whenever you see me on a gig playing something else, usually it's under
I was
duress.
just wondering as a kid if that was the first instrument you had in your hands.
Yeah, I can. Well, this is actually a good story
I like good stories.
yeah, good story. No, for your interview, I do remember actually why I wanted to play trombone. And the reason why is because when I was 7 years old, which would be like 1971 or two, uh, I was at home one night watching PBS, and they had a program with a jazz band from New Orleans on, which was the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. And at that time, I believe it was probably still the original members who were very old. I mean, the trombone player had to be 80 or 90 years old. He was a guy, and I remember I didn't know tunes or anything, but they were playing fun music and dancing around, and probably it was at Preservation Hall. I don't think they really went out much in those days, but anyway, they did a solo number, and this guy was playing his trombone and dancing around and waving a handkerchief, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. And the trombone, something about the trombone, I just loved it. I wanted to play that, and I didn't get the chance. Again, now I was a kid in Pennsylvania, and in those schools, there was public school. Uh, and maybe they still start kids in fourth grade on music.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
That's where they start them out here anyway.
Yeah, well, sometimes years later, as you know, they cut so many programs. But anyway, so fourth grade was the first year I got a chance to where we could sign up for instruments, and I signed up for the trombone. Now I wasn't a big kid, so the trombone case was about as large as me, and carrying it to the catch the school bus. I mean, it was like it was like me hauling this thing, and
What was the brand of your first horn? What brand was it?
uh, it would have been a rental. I think it was probably an Olds, a student model.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I think it was an Olds. Not a very good horn.
It would be an Ambassador if it was a student model.
Yeah, I can't even say. By the time I got to high school several years later, I had a very good high school band director who was a trumpet player, but he knew horns, and he said, well, we should get you on a better horn. And he hooked me up with, oh, you know what? Maybe the elementary horn. I'm not even sure what that was now. But
I'm just curious. A lot of players remember. A lot of players don't. One of the funnier things is I was interviewing Flip Oakes. You know Flip probably from he invented the Wild Thing trumpet, and he's an instrument designer. Anyway, I asked him what his first cornet was, and he couldn't remember either. He said, "But I was 6 anyway."
Yeah. So then he got me on a better horn, and that was probably a King. And I played, I played that horn for maybe 10 years. I played all the way until the time I moved out here. And then that horn was pretty well worn out. And I went and bought, everybody out here played Bach horns at that time. And that's probably still more or less true. I think
sometimes the King 2B is pretty popular, but.
Yeah. And I first had a Bach 12, which is kind of small, but it was pretty similar to the 2B, and I played that for a long time, and I wore that horn out over close to 20 years, and then another friend of mine just finally took pity and gave me a Bach 16 that he had laying around. It was like brand new, and that's the horn I play these days.
Okay,
so,
Tommy Dorsey played a little pea shooter too. He had a real tiny blower, which is why he got that sound he got, which was a good thing. I'm just flexing my knowledge here.
Yeah. I think he played Kings, probably, maybe Kahn, but it was in that family.
What brought you out to California?
I went to college in Annapolis, Maryland for 4 years. And actually, I went to a liberal arts school there where we studied a lot of literature and stuff like that because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And but it was very good education. And then when I graduated at the age of 22, I did want to. I was interested in playing music. I really enjoyed playing trombone, so I just wanted to move somewhere and kind of see what I could get involved in. And so I came to California without any connections. I had no family here. I just my father had given me a car, and I drove out to California in 1986. And
That's a trip.
yeah, no, it was a trip. And I had a succession of day jobs for a number of years, but I always was finding bands to play, and I was playing a lot of music. And eventually, I was so busy with music that I got burnt out working day and night, and I did quit my day job.
So did you kind of land in Northridge when you got here, or?
I initially landed more on the West Side, South Bay area, but I tried going to school at Cal State Northridge. I only lasted a semester as a music major, and then I was musically involved with people there for 2 or 3 years, but I wasn't a full-time student really most of that time. And then I continued to live out here since I'd come to the Valley for that. But yeah.
So how did you? So when you finally got, were you just like me? Were doing just anything that pays? You were doing rock bands and Latin bands and anything you get a paycheck for, right?
And a number of things that didn't pay too. As you know, I mean, some musical groups. There are a lot of things you can do where there may not be money, there may not be a market for what they're doing. I was really interested in playing, but of course, especially since I became, a full-time musician, you try to make money as much as possible, and sometimes you may decide to do one thing rather than another because you need to make as much money as possible. I mean, that's a reality.
Yeah, but I was telling somebody that there was one point where I just didn't turn anything down, and yeah. I realized I really can't make more than I can spend as a musician anyway. Yeah. I'm just talking about playing casuals and things.
Sure.
There was a time I was doing 7 days a week driving all over between San Diego and Northridge, and I beat myself to death and realized, no, okay, better watch out for my health and take the better paying jobs that are local.
That's right. But you have to make decisions. Sometimes, I mean, speaking for myself, I may decide to do something where the money's not that good, but the music is good, or, we have to enjoy our lives. We have to feel some kind of fulfillment in what we do. Even if a job is paying really well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's fun and fulfilling.
Oh, you bet.
But to tell you the truth, I usually enjoy those things too. So I just have fun. I mean,
well, you've been very fortunate that way. Then one of those jobs, where you're. Yeah. I've had way too many of those. You're probably the very first person as a horn player that I've talked to whose first thing that caught their ear was trad jazz. Most of them people will be listening to either radio pop 10 hits or top 10 hits, or they'll be influenced by symphonies or their school band directors, which are more than likely not jazz people usually. And so that's interesting. So I met you in your comfort zone when I met you in the Dixieland genre.
I suppose so, yeah.
Well, I would just say, because I've offered my opinion too many times,
Oh, no, your opinion's welcome here, Dan.
Well, that's good to know. So what was your busiest year? What were you doing, like the busiest you can remember being?
There was a really good period for me, actually, in the early years when I told you I quit my day job. I think that was 1999. And then in the early 2000s, and actually this involved Corey Gem, who is a a good friend of yours too.
I think he's been mentioned in almost every interview I've done so far.
You're not going to get away from. Well, Corey was busy in those days working at. They had very fun Dixieland bands at Universal Studios Hollywood, at the theme park up by City Walk.
Sure.
And so Corey was always looking around for people to get and come play in the bands there. And he picked me to be one of the guys, and the money was good.
Who's playing tuba at that time?
Well, let me think now.
Was it Mike Mulroy?
You know what? Usually on those things, I think they might even have used a string. I don't know if we had tubas always. John Moore was busy there.
Okay.
But I can't. And he might have been playing tuba, but he might have been playing. I think they would use like a stick bass more often, that kind of thing. And because they were small groups, there would be a front line with a cornet or trumpet, trombone, and a reed player. And then the back line would be, a guy in a rolling with a rolling drum set.
Sure.
And probably some kind of bass. Yeah. Again, I'm not.
No. Yeah. Sure.
I think it varied, and then either a banjo or a guitar. But that was it. Maybe six people, and then we might have singers come out. And
was that Jimmy Turner? Was that Jimmy Turner on banjo back then? I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know that
This
name.
isn't a test on your memory.
I remember. Yeah, I don't think he was there that time. A lot of people came and went there.
Yeah.
It was a revolving door, and many people worked there. And I was only there for a couple of years, so there could have been people before and after me. And then a few years after that, they kind of cut it so the gig doesn't exist anymore. They just don't have bands. You go up there to see the Blues Brothers, and they have. And now back in the day, they had a whole Blues Brothers band and a production. And the last time I went up here some years ago, they had two brothers and a woman doing the Aretha, and the rest of it was canned. It's like, this is not the Blues Brothers band. How can you even pass this off? It's outrageous. But they'll do anything to save a dime. You know how it is. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, and Disney. Now I've never worked really at the park at Disney, and of course many of our friends have. So it's a kind of, the same kind of thing there, but still, it's a place where a lot of our friends can make a living wage playing music. So
Sure.
I value that.
I did what was 9 years at Knott's Berry Farm. I think it was something like that.
Mm.
But no, I was not at Disney for a lot of reasons we won't go into. But it was mostly miscommunication.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of that, but anyway, it's like that in all these places though, because you go in and there's politics and blah blah blah. But my point is though, at Universal Studios, I love playing the music, and there are a lot of things about the gig I loved, and those were fun years. And,
Sure.
And you could make good money doing that. So the parks make so much money. There's no reason they can't have live music. I mean, it's a shame that that's not better recognized and understood, because I think it adds a lot to all these places to have a band come in and jazz things up. And,
well, the guys who I call them theme park warriors. Those guys who put the time in, you just develop such chops. If for nothing else, just putting in the time on your horn,
Yeah.
Really pretty incredible stuff. So is there a trombone player that you listen to for inspiration?
There are a lot of wonderful trombone players, and I mean, one thing you've established already is that I'm omnivorous in my musical taste, more or less, and even where I wind up playing, I just get exposed to so many things. So a lot of times, what I'm listening to may be conditioned by whatever groups I happen to be playing with at that time. Or I had a run here for a number of years, where just living in Southern California, and actually I know this is true of you too. We wound up playing a lot of Latin music because there's a demand for good live musicians. The music is challenging, and you can make some money.
That was back in my trumpet days, but yes.
Yes.
I actually never did any mariachi, even on tuba.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm thinking more about salsa and dance music. Yeah.
Well, there's a good contingent of our friends who don't know me as the next trumpet player, And there are some people who know me only as a trumpet player and can't wrap their head around the fact that I make my living on sousaphone. So that's okay. I'm happy either way, as long as the paycheck's the same, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But getting back to trombone influences, well, definitely in the world of Latin music, there are some huge trombone influences. Willie Colon was a great,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Puerto Rican, New Yorican, player, and his sound is something like Tommy Dorsey. The name conjures up a whole sound and style, and so does Willie Colon, and it's just marvelous. I mean, he's definitely a seminal player, and I believe he's still alive and active. I've never gotten to see him live, but the records that he made were just wonderful. And there are other people too. The trombone is a much loved instrument in Latin dance music over the years, and so there's been a lot of great records to listen to. And I played many hundreds of nights on gigs playing that music.
And for a while there, when I was playing with Espiritu de Caribe, I actually doubled trombone and trumpet. And I'm a really loud trombone player without any range. But
you know the slide?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have to teach it too. As you know, I teach high school on occasion. So sure. Yeah, I went from valves to slide. The conversion, once I learned what it was easy. Just a matter of getting, especially like, there are some, fourth and fifth position aren't exactly easy to find for a novice. But sure. No, I actually played about 2 years doubling the two, which was really stupid because we had a trombone player, but we would do some of those Latin charts that called for multiple trombones, and you know which ones I'm talking about. And so I put down my trumpet, pick up trombone, and play the second part on those. But I don't do that anymore.
And you were playing with, I think I know your trombone player is John Morrill.
He was. He was one of them, but he was one of the originals. So you know John?
I do. I haven't been in touch with him in a while, but in recent years. So yeah.
John was a lifeguard, but
yes.
But yeah, great guy. He was so much fun on the gig, and a couple other people sat him with. You know Mike Dago?
Yes.
He's probably the loudest trombone player I've ever stood next to. Fine player, but man, can he pump the decibels? You know?
Yeah. He's something else.
And John Grab.
Talk about a character, man. That guy was really out there. He would show up on, I don't know if he was probably like this when you knew him, but over the years, he got quite a reputation for doing things like, going to a gig barefoot or.
You talking about John Grab?
No, Mike Dago.
Oh, Mike Dago, okay.
They go show up. He'd have like a beanie with a propeller on the top of it. He'd go to a gig. just outlandish stuff, or do when he was taking a solo, he'd do crazy things. Really wild.
I forgot who it was, but I made a call for not for a Latin gig, but just for a casual, and I put on the proviso saying that I just wanted to dress in concert black and white, and the guy showed up with white pants and a black shirt. And I sent him home, and he said, "No, I've got the right stuff." And I go, "It's not funny. Get out of here." As a leader and a contractor, you're going to put up with so much of that.
Yeah.
Or neon orange socks on a classical gig, those kind of things. Which you've probably done, but.
Well, only if I'm pretty sure it's gonna fly. I'm not out to push the envelope in a way to jeopardize the gig.
Now, are you still getting quite a bit of casual? Well, not now, but up until now, are you doing a lot of casual Dixie stuff?
I have to say no. I think this is a common refrain you're going to hear from musicians, but the casual scene over the years has really fallen on tough times, and for whatever reason. And maybe it's even a generational thing. People are not as inclined to hire live music for their house parties as they were even 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
And I had an experience with, there's a guy that markets himself as a New Orleans jazz band around LA. And he's from Louisiana, and so it's the real deal. We do the second line stuff and parade around. It's a lot of fun. But he got hired. A bunch of us went out to play for a bar mitzvah. And the reason we got hired is because somebody's aunt loves this music and wanted to have it. We go in there, and these 15-year-old kids were just like, they had expressions on their face like, get this, we don't, what is this? Get this out. You know, they wanted to get rid of us and put the DJ on and play whatever the hoo-ha music is they're listening to. You know, they really weren't having that at all. So unfortunately, you run into that now culturally a lot where the live music's not so welcome.
There's a great story. And it's only a great story because it didn't happen to me. But there's a great story about Larry Wright was actually working for John Hancock, who had his own agency, AAA talent agency or whatever. And he forgot to book a band for some high school graduation party. They wanted a casual band for the backyard. And at the last minute, he called Larry up and asked him to show up with his banjo, not telling him what the gig was supposed to be. So he shows up at this house for a high school graduation party, solo banjo. And the rest goes exactly as you thought it would. But yeah.
Wow. Well, why was he sent there? What was
just because the guy forgot to book the band. And at the last minute, he got a phone call. Okay. Got a phone call from the client saying, "Where's my music?"
Oh God! Wow. Yeah. That's not so cool.
Well, what is the strangest gig you've been on? I know it's a good question for you.
I mean, this will be random because there are a lot of things I could nominate for that. But one of the things I enjoyed was when I was playing the Latin circuit. I worked a lot with Peruvians, and I don't know if that's coincidence or not, but my first major, you know, for me,
sure,
Latin gig was as a house band at Los Globos in Silver Lake, a wonderful nightclub in the 1990s, and we played 2 or 3 nights every week, and it was just crazy times. And the band leader there was Peruvian. A lot of people there were Central and South American, and so I worked with that band a lot for about 10 years, and then some years after that had come to an end. Somebody told me about an ad on Craigslist where somebody was looking for a trombone player for a Latin band, and I answered the ad, and it was another Peruvian guy, but it was like the next generation. He was a younger guy, but he wanted to have a band and he wanted trombone players and yada yada. So I started working with this guy, and he worked a lot. He was a young guy, he had a lot of energy, and he went out and booked. And the Peruvians still like to have culturally, for whatever reason, they still like to have live music at their house parties. They will hire bands and they'll pay money, and they have all these wonderful traditions based around partying. You know,
yeah, I've never done a Peruvian band. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's a lot like now. What was it? A Cuban band you were playing in? Yeah. I mean, it's similar. The music is a little bit different, but you know, it's salsa.
And same kind of party.
Same kind of things, but there are certain things, and the Peruvians have certain ideas, which, you know, not unique to them, but one of the things is they like the idea of partying until 5 a.m.
Sure.
Hasta las 5 is.
Oh, really? So it's a thing.
It'd be a rallying cry. So another tradition they have, which is more seldom invoked, is called La Hora Loca, which is the crazy hour.
Yep.
And it's kind of a carnival thing. When they do it, it'll be maybe to celebrate a specific occasion, or maybe just because they feel like we're going to be really crazy tonight. But we're going to, and so the idea is for 1 hour, towards the end of the night, probably somewhere in there, just it's going to be totally nuts. And so the live music will go top volume, and there'll be confetti.
All hell breaks loose.
And the clowns come in, and people, you know, it's like Rio and Carnival, and they're going to try to do that inside their house or whatever.
Oh my!
And I mean, I've been through several.
Sounds dangerous, actually.
It could be. Yeah. So I remember one of those. We had a gig, which was I think a wedding reception somewhere around Pomona, at a standard, you know, banquet hall, something. So that gig ended at 1, And then we went to a house somewhere in that area, just in a regular neighborhood somewhere. And the band set up and we started playing at 2 or 3 in the morning. And we played for about an hour and we were playing salsa like in the kitchen and people are dancing. And then it started to get really quiet. And I hadn't been told what was going to happen, but then I started hearing whispers about La Hora Loca, and it got dead quiet. And I think it struck 3 or 4 in the morning, and all hell broke loose. And it was just, I mean, the children were running around with silly string, and people were screaming, and men were kissing women, and I mean, it was, and this went on for a whole hour. But it got so loud, I couldn't. They must have paid the police off. I mean, you must be able to hear it blocks away. It was La Hora Loca is something. Whenever you hear about that somewhere, just be prepared because it gets really crazy. But the Peruvians are the only ones I know that do that.
Why is your accent so good?
What's that?
I said, why is your accent so good? Are you a fluent Spanish speaker?
I'm not fluent, but as you gather by now, I spent many nights over the years. My Spanish is pretty good. I can kind of get by conversationally, but I'm not fluent. But I've also learned, and of course, the slang, the type of slang you hear in those gigs over and over. Yeah, my accent would be convincing because I just.
Well, it is to me, but then again, I'm used to hearing Cubans, which is a very different accent.
That's right. There's a difference, yeah, and Mexicans and so on, yeah.
Yeah, they tend to like to string their consonants together. It's very much like French that way.
Yes, and the Spanish lisp, a very pronounced lisp.
Sí, señor.
No, like they're from Barcelona, I mean, really.
Well, see, not that this is supposed to be about me, but my mother, of course, was born in the Philippines, but her mother was Castilian Spanish. And so when I got into junior high school taking Spanish classes, I was wrong most of the time. Anyway, because my mom taught me Castilian because her mother taught her Castilian. So that's another story for another time and maybe another channel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I got away from the trad jazz.
Oh, well, the only reason I'm using trad jazz as a title for this is because it's no longer proper to say Dixieland.
Now, why is
that? It's politically incorrect.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
our friend, you've heard us talk about George Probert. I don't know if you ever had a chance to play with George.
I did.
But he named his band Monrovia Old Style, which I think now, in retrospect, was a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
But for Pete's sake, Ed, practice, man. Oh, yeah. I spent way too much time with Mr. Probert, which was all well worth it. So, do you have any hobbies other than music? A lot of us don't. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, well, music is plainly my first love, but no, I do other things. I have other interests. I've learned Tai Chi over the years.
Oh.
And do that, and I do exercise.
I'll stop screwing with you then. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I read a lot with my college background, and all these things now. Of course, with the shutdown, now I have more time to.
Do you have a favorite author?
It depends on what I'm reading lately. It's kind of like the music. Like, what am I playing lately? Who's my favorite trombone player? It's like, just kind of where. But I go through phases. Like the latest thing I read is like, that was really cool. But yeah, I wouldn't even. Now I got to tell you, Dan Barrett recommended a book to me some months ago. You must have been there when they came by Curley's.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and Brian Shaw was with them.
And, one night that Jeff Beaumont was there with us, and Katie was there. I've got pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, my family, yeah.
I think there were 2 times that Dan came in recent times, but yeah, I remember the one night you're talking about where a whole lot of people were there. Yeah, but Dan recommended a book called The Night People, which is actually it's not really a trad jazz book, but it is a jazz book. It was written by the trombone player Dickie Wells.
Okay.
Who was a burning trombone player with Count Basie's band, and a million other bands. And he came up in the 20s and played in Harlem and was playing with all these guys. And so the book is his reminiscences about, you know, well, mainly about the kind of crazy experiences we're talking about on gigs, and because it was the same thing then. But I mean, they were playing all the time, and they'd be playing until 7 or 8 in the morning every day. It was just crazy times, and a lot of great music. But Dan Barrett was talking about that book. I can't remember if he recommended to me to read that, or if he was just talking about the book because he was excited about it. He'd just been reading it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when he moved up to Oregon. But yeah, he moved up north.
Okay, I didn't know that, because I run into him usually in the context of what's the guy's name, Dan Levinson.
Sure.
And when they come to the West Coast, he and his wife come to do gigs. They'll try to do things with their inner circle, which includes Dan and Brian, and so sometimes they'll play even at one of the Sunday jazz clubs or something like that, and I'll see them and run into them there.
Ridiculously talented people.
Yes, yeah. No, Dan's just what can you say? I mean, a fabulous trombone player, but
It's
a nice guy too.
Very nice. Oh yeah. Earlier this morning, I was interviewing Howard Alden.
Wow.
And of course, he and Dan had a duo, and they went around kind of as an act for quite a while. And we were talking about when we were all on the Southern Comfort Band back in the 1980s. And one of the things that they had both put biographies out for our promo package, and Dan had put on his, just kind of as a joke, that he could name every Major League World Series winner since the beginning. Of course, he couldn't, but we got to a radio show, and that was the first question the radio announcer asked him. And so he just threw out a name. He just, I think that was, whatever, which is hilarious. And then the same guy, knowing that he had been turned to Howard and said, I suppose you're going to do something like play an appropriate banjo tune like Malagueña. And then Howard launched into Malagueña and took up to like 4 minutes of airtime. So anyway, that's those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dan's a great guy, a lot of fun. I was so happy when they came by to see us all.
Yeah.
That evening. But yeah, he moved. Actually, he called me up and said he had some stuff he wanted to know if I was interested in any of his books or any of the recordings he had at the house, because he didn't want to take everything with him. But I think he's now back in Europe doing festivals. If I know right. Oh. I've been trying to get him to come onto the channel, and
yeah.
So
he's in Europe right now?
I think. I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
Oh, well, I think probably he can't, unless he's already there. You can't get in now as an American.
Yeah. Now, did you know that Dan Barrett is married to Brian Shaw's sister?
Yes, I gathered that from the night they were there. I understood that it was kind of a family thing, and they were just going out to see some Dixieland.
And of course, his son is a very talented piano player.
Yes, and I played. I played a fair amount with Andrew. Yeah.
Anyway, tell me more about what's going on. Now, you hit the same kind of jazz circles I do at the moment. And there seem to be a lot of kids, it seems to be coming around again, that younger people are getting interested in this style. Do you find that in all the jazz clubs you've played in?
Here and there, you find a young person who takes to the music and wants to play and is looking for places to play. I still think we need a lot more of that.
I interviewed Zane, in fact.
Yeah.
On one of my earlier conversations.
Yeah.
And people like that are kind of a great hope. We're also anxious to help them out, to try to get them to. And he really enjoys the style, and of course is taking his banjo seriously. And then we get the occasional kid who comes through the SPDJ, the Society for the Preservation. And we've had some success there with kids coming up and sitting in with us. But I think it's going to take another Cotton Club movie or something to really get some weight behind it.
Yeah, and especially with what's going on now, where we don't know how we're going to work through the whole virus situation here. But right now, you can't. the entire nightclub scenario is pretty much unworkable. And
As you know, we've been trying to figure out a place to do another recording for SPDJ.
I saw that last night, yeah,
And it actually works out better for me if we don't do the one that was coming up this Sunday. So I let CJ know, but it's a tough time.
it is a tough time, and we're going to have to see in the future. I mean, if you can't really get people together to play and play for groups of people, and preferably for dancing, because let's face it, you know, a lot of the money I made playing music over the years was for dancing, and right
Sure.
now that's impossible. So,
Well, of course, there's the other side of my coin, which is can't do marching bands for football games either.
you can't do it. Yeah, it's
You know?
just, yeah.
So and let alone crowding people into a football stadium and having kids, 200 kids on the field. That's all put on hold.
It's all on hold, and we don't know. I mean, hopefully we'll get back to something like what the old normal was, at least where we can get together again. If not, then, you know, there's still going to be music, and we'll have to find ways to put it together, like we did at the jazz club. There were video something and put it online, and some of our friends or you know, followers are able to look at it and enjoy it. That's something. But
you saw the stuff I've been putting up on my other channel, right? Or have you seen that?
just a little bit here and there. I have to say I've not gone through your catalog.
Well, that's kind of, well, my other channel is Daniel E. Zeilinger
Okay.
on YouTube. And I resorted to putting up slideshows of previous gigs that I've done that isn't video on. So I'll take a cut off of one of the recordings that I've done, and I put up a joint. I have a whole slideshow on my time with Big Tiny Little. I have a slideshow up for the Miss Maven Jazz Band with Brian and all those guys. And because I didn't have video on any of these things, so I took a track off of the recording and I put it up with a slideshow. And I mean, at least that's one way to keep things going out there, you know, along with that stuff I put together for Cherry Willow.
Yeah. Good times. But it's going to be hard going into the future until we can see what it looks like. Yeah, it's very important we do outreach to younger people and bring them into the music, but I'm not sure. It's unclear now what even the circumstances, what are the terms of engagement going to be with you know, how are we going to get together?
Yeah, not only that, one of the things that I put together that stuff for was for our fans. As you know, especially the fans at Curley's,
Yes,
that's their social life. You know, their friends are there, and they're now friends of the band, and it's a weekly get together where they get to hang out and laugh and forget some troubles and have some food. And you know, the depth of the devastation that this thing is causing goes more emotionally than it does physically in a lot of cases.
yeah.
So I'm just trying to support the entire community, whether it be up and coming musicians or fans that are missing what they, you know, like to watch, or us musicians who miss playing with each other, because
Sure.
the general public in general doesn't understand that transference of energy that happens in a live performance between musicians. Not only is it necessary for good music, but it's addictive.
Yeah. I mean, it is, the social engagement is a big part of it. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Well,
Very important.
I'm so glad that you offered to do this. I'm going to kind of start closing up here, but I want to give you the chance to say or plug anything you'd like to say or plug. So what do you have to say for yourself, Ed?
Well,
Any products? No,
I want to offer you an interesting observation actually about this book that I
Sure. You're not getting any feedback off of the price of that thing, because.
Well, let me tell you something. I ordered this title because it's a very old book. I ordered it off of Amazon, and you know, so I wound up getting it from some bookseller either in the Midwest or maybe the East Coast. I don't know. And I was looking at it. I thought, you know, this kind of looks a lot like a library book, and I realized when I go in the back, it
was.
And not only that, It looks like it had only ever been checked out 3 times, and the last time was in 1989.
So it's
So,
overdue.
well,
You've got some fines to pay.
if I go back and if I'm able to figure out what library this came from, yeah, that could be like I don't know, $500 in overdue funds or something. All this because Dan Barrett recommended a book to read, and
So if that's any lesson for you folks out there, don't listen to anything Dan Barrett says.
it's a great book. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, no, what can I tell you, man? Life now it is challenging for all of us, and I'm just trying day to day to to do the things that take care of the things that we can take care of,
Sure.
and manage the things that we can manage, and try to make every day as good a day as possible. And hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to get together really and play music the way we like to do it, and for people the way we like to do that. But
my hope as well, and of course, it's everybody's hope that we can return to some sort of normal. I doubt if it'll ever be the same normal, but I'd like something closer to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. I hope our paths cross in person again soon.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy our time together playing it, as you know.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
It's a lot of fun. So for now, I'm going to sign off, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Take care. Thank you all for watching Trad Jazz Today with Dan Zeilinger. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Videos come out every Wednesday and Friday.